Wasn't sure if anybody was going to get that one. Well, little dispatch, and I did not realize. Oh no! Why does this keep? Why my YouTube feed keeps messing up over here? Give me a second here to play with my tech. Steve, we're going to put you on the spot. You got to tell us a little bit about this dispatch infatuation. I didn't even know they were still going. This was like a college band of mine.
Yeah, they refused to sign a big label because the head guy there, Chad, didn't want to, succumb to Hollywood pressures. So they're the number one non-big label band ever. My wife's a huge fan, so when we got together, we went to go see them in OAR together, which they're from Maryland, and it was the best live show ever. So then we just started going every
Awesome.
time they're around. So we've seen them probably a dozen times in the last 3 years, and they're going to be doing the Levitate Music Festival in Bridgeport, Connecticut coming up this year. So we have tickets to that already.
Awesome. We'll go. If you haven't checked out some dispatch, go check out some dispatch. Well, I'm off to a good start this Thursday. I hope you guys are too. I always kind of poke around for some good some some good content for you, some feel good stories. And I came across this one. I'm going to put this up on the screen here. Pierced by Cupid's sedan, woman forgives and marries motorist who accidentally ran her over. That is not a love story. I don't know what is. This lady got hit by this guy. He visits her in the hospital, and they are now married. So pretty crazy story there. Hopefully that puts you in some sort of a good mood, puts a smile on your face to get our conversation going today. We do have Kate Sheehan with us for legal help today, but as always, rather just open the floor, see if anybody's got anything urgent on their mind, something going on in a transaction, something that they learned that would be a good share for this group here. What's going on in your real estate worlds? How about something that you are focused on in your business right now that maybe is working, or something that you're focused on that isn't working, and that's why you're focused on it, that maybe we can help with? Somebody trying to open up a new piece to their business, trying something new, we can go down a rabbit hole and help you out on. The more mundane, the better. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to start calling on people. I'll put somebody on. Chris, I'm gonna put you on. Are you in a position to talk? You're a talker. You'll always get that thing going.
I'd love to say no, I'm not in a position to talk, but I am in my snuggie on this rain day working from home.
Oh, I mean, I love that you throw the camera on to speak. But we were on a call yesterday, and I thought you had mentioned on there that you're kind of getting back to your basics. You've always been a big producer, but I thought you said you were trying something a little bit different, or maybe trying to get out of a comfort zone on something. Am I off, or are you trying to go down a little bit of a different road?
Well, it's the AI. The AI is the road that I have been going down for about since the beginning of January now, since you talk about it so much. And so I've done a ton with that just from even chit chatting with AI. He's become like my therapist, right? So like they know everything. So now even when I say something like, what kind of table to get for the printer for my son, it says, well, since your son is in a tech school, because he knows this because I had spoke to him. So I definitely put systems in place using the AI, which was awesome. But what I am trying to do is my database. Damn, it's like right back to that same thing. I do Popeyes, and I do mailings. I do all that. Don't get me wrong, but just really getting a little more personal because,
Well,
listening
let's
is
let's
where it's
stay
at.
here because I think this is important, and I obviously love AI, and I know there's a lot of talk about it, but I think it's like we were talking on this call yesterday that we were on together. I think it can get overwhelming for people. Where do I start? How do I actually use it? So I want to bring up a couple of things. One of the great things that I'm learning as I use AI as much as I do, and I'm playing with 4 different platforms. So just so you guys understand, your ChatGPT is kind of your main one. But I obviously highly recommend Perplexity for doing some research. Claude is another good one for writing. And then I've been playing around with Gemini, which is Google's product, right? So play around with the different ones and see what you like. What I love about some of these is that they allow the voice to talk. So if you're driving in the car and you just have a question, you want to kill some time, you can just talk to it and you can get some of your questions answered. But I think one of the key things that Chris said that I really want you guys to understand is the fact that it starts to learn who you are. Right. So for me, like it took me a week to get this whole setup working to be able to go live with this show. Right. But it now knows the monitor that I have, the cameras that I have, the software that I'm using. So if I ask a question, it already knows, oh, for the Ecamm software that you use to go live, here's where you can find that setting. Right. So one of the advantages to diving in deep now is it to learn who you are, what you use, the systems that you like to utilize. And then so have this built up so that as the next level, these I guess they're called agent-based AIs are going to come along where now it's going to be, hey, I'll just go into Ecamm and change that setting for you. So right now I might say, yesterday I was trying to find some analytics. How are we doing on the show? What kind of feedback can I get? How much is each channel getting? What are we getting for views on LinkedIn and YouTube? So I said, hey, can Ecamm do this? Well, Ecamm can't do it, right? It's not, those analytics aren't tracked in Ecamm. You just use this product to get the show out, right? But if there was a setting in there, like that's the next level is I'll just say, hey, can you go in there and change that setting? Or could you go in there and just give me the statistics? That's where this stuff is going. And this isn't like 5 years down the road. That this will be happening by the end of this year where you're going to be able to interact with the different softwares, right? So how important do you think it is for your AI chatbot to know that you are an MLS PIN user? Right? I truly believe by the end of 2025, you'll be able to say, can you log into my MLS and set up a search for one of my clients? Could you log into the MLS, run this query, and let me know how many properties are for sale? Let me know what the average sales price is. That's where we're going when we say agent-centric AI or agentric, you'll hear that term, AI. So it's not just, hey, answer my questions. It's going to start to interact. Hey, open my Gmail and send this email, right? So let's just pause there for a little bit and see if we've got questions or comments, or do we understand the depth of where AI is going? And this is why I'm pushing so hard on it. What do we have for questions? Is there something, Lauren, go ahead.
Good morning. So when you're getting started with like ChatGPT, right, you're going to obviously get like those super generic responses because it doesn't know anything about you. Before you really dive deeper, if you've already started and you're not loving it, you can tell the AI, hey, ask me 10 questions, ask me 20 questions about myself, about how I operate in my business. That'll help the responses that I get from you be more directed to me specifically. And it's got some really good prompts, right? Ask me about the systems I use. Ask me about my preferences for clientele type, things like that. And then it'll prompt the questions. You just respond to them. And then if you continue interacting with it, it really grows and learns like at an exponential rate if you do that. So.
Cool. Anybody else want to chime in or just have more questions on maybe how we can utilize it? That's just one way that I'm thinking about.
How to utilize what, Steve? AI?
AI, yeah. Any other
Every
questions
way.
on
Look
that?
yeah, I mean, it's everything now. Yeah. Everything. Is Adam on this call? He's in love. Is he on this call?
I am. So I literally just typed Lauren's exact because the problem the problem I have is I never know if it really knows me. So I'll be like, hey, I'm a real estate agent in Sarasota. I run a home buying business for cash. So I just said, what questions you need to know about me and my business to help the responses I get from you to be more directed to me, right? And it's got 5 bullet points: your real estate business, what brokerage are you, do you specialize in a specific type of real estate, sell to Adam, what areas do you buy homes in, do you mainly focus on distressed properties, marketing and branding, what's your tone of voice, casual, professional. I started a YouTube channel, so it's asking me questions about YouTube and online presence. We have Airbnbs, where my property is located, do you self-manage? Like, this is bonkers.
Yeah.
So anything, I use AI every day, in literally anything I type, other than a quick text to a friend, whether it's a social post, whether I'm responding to a client, like anything. Like, I literally typed an email yesterday. We're getting ready to launch a property here in Sarasota, and I had my whole email, and I literally just put it in the ChatGPT. The prompt was "make this better," and it spits out something I could never dream to come up with, and it was super professional. So like, for me, anything other than a quick text is going into ChatGPT if I'm sitting in front of a computer.
I hate to admit this, but my 16-year-old son came home yesterday with 100 on an essay, and he hates to write. And he let me know that he did it through AI, ChatGPT, and then there's another one called Humanize. So you can take it from the ChatGPT, make it more like yours, make a couple tweaks, and there was his essay.
Yeah.
So it's everything.
It's everywhere, Lauren, go ahead.
Two thoughts off of what everyone said. So Chris, with your child using it, right? They give them a lot of pushback, but I have like such a feeling about this, right? I'm all about using resources. They tell them to use the resources, and that's one of like the best resources out there. So I'm like really not against the kids utilizing this, right? As long as they're just not copying and pasting everything, I think access to tenfold of information this way is like a blessing to them, not something that should be hindered. And second part is I find it really interesting how the AI, depending on what you're using it for, is so different. So like using it for real estate, the responses I get are huge. But we tried using it for like some horse related stuff, and the information out there is so much less that the responses were wild. So we have like a big group that's now trying to teach it specific things to help grow it for like that field. So the more you use it, the more it learns, the better it is.
Absolutely. Meg.
I mean, when I first started using it, I have to say, when I would get responses, I would be like, that doesn't sound like me at all. So what I found is if I found myself like rewriting what it gave me, I would then put that back into it and say, this is the response I used. So I feel like by doing that, as everybody's kind of pointed out, like it starts to learn you and your cadence, so that I have found like as I continue to use it, it does sound more and more like something that I would naturally write, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, 100%. It's getting there. One of the cool features on the Superhuman app that I use, they just launched auto drafts. So I will now wake up to my inbox with drafted responses already ready to go, and I can determine if I want to send those emails or I want to change those emails. So just think about how much time just on for inbox management that something like that could save you if it's auto drafting. It's doing auto reminders for me. So how many times have you sent an email to another agent and you're waiting for a response and you're like, oh shit, they never got back to me, right? It'll know, hey, this is an email that needs a response. You no longer have to think about that or set a reminder or do any of that stuff. We are in our emails every single day, and they are, some of the stuff is really, really critical. And so you can up your cadence on your reminders. You can back off the cadence on the reminders. You can, tweak it, but like, these are the things that if you're not using it, that everybody else is going to be speeding up their processes and their systems. John.
Good morning. Yeah, so I'm not sure. Are you familiar with make.com?
Yeah, so I've used Make, I've used Lindy, and there's one more. So these are what John's referring to are agent builders, basically. So you can start to piece together. It's kind of Zapier So if you guys are familiar with Zapier, you can say, hey, when X happens in this platform, I want Y to happen on this platform. Right? When I get a new lead in Follow-Up Boss, I want it added to this Google spreadsheet. Right?
Yep. And then you can
Make.com
have
is doing it for AI.
yes. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've played with it. I think it's still a little, it's first gen for sure. And I just felt like I was spending more time trying to get it to work than was worth it for me. There's probably some use cases out there. But that's the type of thing by the end of 2025, I don't even think you're going to need make.com. You're just going to tell it how you want these things to integrate, and that it'll just integrate for you. You know, I think like the make.coms are going to get kind of skipped over. So, or they'll iterate and allow you to just talk to them. Right. KB.
Yep.
Morning. Yeah, I just have I guess a quick question because I jumped on a little late. I had a doctor's appointment, but there's so many different platforms out there, right? Like there's all of these different things that I know that you use, and a lot of these platforms are paid platforms. And, you know, for someone who's just getting started, I guess I would like to know, I mean, like I use ChatGPT and I use Perplexity, but if you were to pick like your 3 to 5 top favorite things that maybe you're paying for on a monthly basis, right? That you would recommend for anyone who's getting started, what would those be?
Yeah, I just think I don't even think it's 3 to 5. I think I would just stick with ChatGPT and pay the $20. Yeah, they just came out with a deep reasoning model when you pay the $20 over the last week. I gave it a pretty complex problem that it thought about for about 30 minutes. Right. And so I've never seen it like think and do that much data analysis before. So what deep reasoning is supposed to do is it's supposed to allow you to, that's what I'm looking for, kind of do research either on a data set or on a topic, right? So think about this question. Hey, I'm looking to change brokerages. Could you evaluate all the different brokerages that are out there, all the different compensation models that are out there, and give me the pluses and minuses of each one? Let that thing rip for 10, 15 minutes and boom.
I haven't had to pay yet. So is that because I'm not asking complex enough questions? Because it's written me a ton of a ton.
Yeah. So you don't have access to that deep reasoning button, I don't think. So when you go into ChatGPT, I don't know if you'll see deep reasoning as an option. And I don't know if you'll see the little web icon. You may not get the web search on the free version. But what I've been noticing is I've been paying for it, for probably a year now, is I'll have it, maybe a month or two before they've just, okay, now that's available to the free version and the paid version is now getting access to this, right? So the free version is still damn good. Damn good. So just for me, I just use it so much that it's just $20. I got to have the faster and the deeper, and yeah. So just share this on the screen for those. John just put up, here's a great first prompt that he's used to help him correctly prompting ChatGPT. You're to act as an AI prompt engineer, create detailed prompts as to almost create a live human response. I want to create bots like doctors, lawyers, and other expensive service providers that are mainly just overpaid researchers. Make the prompts as detailed as possible. So, play around with humanizing it, because I do think, like what Meg said, is really, really important. You don't want to lose your voice. So you want all this compute, but with your voice. So I know one of the things that the superhuman AI for my email does is it's going to go back and look at all of my emails that I've written, understand my voice, and then in those autoresponders, use my voice to give the auto responses. So, I don't lose my voice on how it's responding to stuff. What else do we have? Anybody maybe have a use case like that you're just questioning, hey, how might I use it to do X, real estate related or not? All right. All right, Kate. Well, we've dominated with AI. Let's get the attorney's thoughts on AI.
I think it's great. I mean, as an attorney, it also makes me very nervous, and I'm like, am I going to be able to tell if this is, looking not necessarily in a real estate, aspect of it, but just in the lawyer aspect? I'm like, do I know if this is my client talking to me or is this a bot talking to me? But I think it's fantastic. I think it's opening up different avenues and different, setting up streams for things that you wouldn't be able to do without. And I'm really excited to see where it goes. And I don't necessarily know how much I can get to play with it in my actual work day to day. Because I just don't trust that its knowledge is going to be better than the stuff that I've paid to learn type thing. But I'm excited to see what it can do and what I can get it to do with me and to benefit me and to make my, my marketing and my job better.
Yeah. What I would say, I would check out something called Harvey.ai. So what they're trying to do over at Harvey is basically take the world's smartest attorneys in their specific realms.
They spoke to me about it. Yeah.
They did. Yeah, it's pretty wild, and so I see the future of attorneys where, clients asking a question and you might, hey, I think this is what the answer is, but let me just see what Harvey has to say. Let me see if I agree. Let me put my spin on it and then do my thing. So I think just like real estate agents, I think attorneys will use it as an assistant. You got a built-in para that, is knowledge specific across all aspects of law.
Right.
It's pretty wild. Yeah. So, all right. Well, what do you got for us today?
So I was going to talk to you guys about probate today because I had a kind of interesting thing that had never happened before on a file that I was working on. We got the offer and we got the MLS. We knew that the property was going to be coming out of an estate. The seller's attorney sent me the draft purchase and sale agreement. And in the email, when he sent me the draft, he said, great news, this is coming out of estate, but we don't need a license to sell. We're all set. So that's great. So I get on and I'm checking out the purchase and sale. I'm reviewing. I get on to the registry and I'm just going through and I see there's two owners and, the owner that's coming out of an estate, great, but there is still another owner on there. So I checked the title and I just did a quick search in the registry and I didn't see that there was, a death certificate or an estate affidavit for the other party. And so I just, sent back my drafts and revisions and asked him, hey, just, side note, I did see that there is another person on title and that I didn't see a death certificate for them. Are they deceased or will they be signing off? Where are we going from here? And he wrote back, he basically wrote back, thank you for bringing up this other person. He also died in the same month as the other owner. So these two people who own the property died within 2 weeks of each other in the month of November 2023. And one predeceased the other, and he had them backwards. So when I brought up this other owner, the seller's attorney had to pull up and look, and he said, nope, they're both in estates. Technically, the one who predeceased, his property transfers over to the remaining owner, and then that current owner is the one that the estate is coming from. But they did need a license to sell. So it changed it changed all of our dates. It changed all of our timing. It came right down to almost we're not buying this property anymore because we're looking, at probate. But I thought, with that going on, probate's a scary thing. And why not do a primer on it and just kind of go over what it is and why it is? Because I think if you understand the reasoning behind the court and what they're looking to do, it makes it a lot more easy to understand, why do we need a license to sell? Why, when are we going to need a formal license to sell versus, just sign it off and say it's good to go. So that's kind of what I was going to quickly go over if that's cool with everybody.
I love it.
All right. So essentially probate, the purpose of it is to transfer property and assets after someone passes away. And the reason we have this probate is it's going to validate a will if there is one. It's going to appoint a personal representative. It's going to settle any debts or taxes with the estate of that decedent. And then it's going to distribute those assets that are remaining to any heirs. A little bit of vocab for you. The decedent is just the person who's died. A personal representative is the person who is appointed by the will or by the courts to administer that decedent's estate. So it's whoever you assign in your will, or if you don't have a will, the court is going to say, I'm going to put this person in charge. And they may say it's a court-appointed personal representative, or they may say it's your spouse or your, whoever petitions to do it, they will set it up and help with that. If you pass away without a will, it's called passing away intestate. And it means that the probate court will appoint a PR to pay off the debts and then distribute those remaining assets by what's called intestate succession. And in Massachusetts, we use a per capita at each generation succession, meaning if you have 3 kids and you have $300,000 remaining in your estate, if you don't have a will, the state will decide each child is going to get $100,000. And it splits it out automatically, and then it goes down the line of succession. So then from your children to your grandchildren down the line in that way. And when you pass away with a will, it's called passing away testate. So then the PR is going to be appointed by the will. So you decide who is going to manage your estate after you pass. That same thing, that same PR is going to pay the debts and distribute the assets. And when you die with a will, it's the probate court's job to uphold the 4 corners of the document, meaning it's their job to uphold the decedent's intent. So if there's a question or if there's anything contesting the will, it's their job to look at it and say, what was the intent of the person who passed away? What were they trying to accomplish here with the will? And then there's technically 3 types of probate. There's formal, informal, and then late and limited. Late and limited, for our purpose, all you need to know about it is that if you are a personal representative and if you're having, a sale for your property and you're going through an estate, the PR in a late and limited proceeding, they cannot get a license to sell, and they don't have the power to sell. So we really don't need to know much more about that, except that we need all of the heirs to be the ones who convey any property. So that's it for them. We don't need anything else about late and limited. Formal and informal, it's exactly what it sounds like. If you don't have a will, it has to go through the court. You have to go through a formal proceeding. There's going to be judicial oversight. You're going to have hearings with the judge. If there's no will or the will is contested. So if you have the heirs contesting the will, that's when it's going to show up informal. And it's going to be more expensive because it's more complex. There's more filings and fees. Informal, it's going to be minimal court involvement. You've got a will that clearly delineates what they need. You're just going to put it into play. The court will approve it and it's going to go forward. So then from this point, specifically a license to sell. It's a license that's issued by the probate courts, and it allows the PR of an estate to sell real estate which belonged to the decedent. And we need it when there's no will, when there is a will that does not grant the power to sell the property, or when there is a disagreement between the heirs on who's going to sell the property or who owns the property. And the reason that we get this license to sell is because we want to make sure that it is legal and transparent in the sale. It makes sure that it protects the interest of the heirs and the creditors. It also protects the interests of the PR, and it conveys a good and clear title. So if you have a property that's been transferred out of an estate and you don't have a license to sell and there's no power to sell in the will, that's a cloud on the title. So now we have to go into, like we were talking about before, we have to go into land court, we have to clear the title, who actually owns the property. But by doing this in advance, that's when you end up clearing the title in advance, getting it set up the way you need. So the title is going to remain free and clear and then marketable as a result. I know we've hit 9 o'clock, so do you want me to keep going, or do we want to
there.
save it?
I see a question here, Kate, and you did
Yeah.
a really good job of getting through it quick. From Sue, just saying, what are the scenarios where somebody could pass away and we don't need probate? Is basically there's a will in place that has a license to sell clause, no
Yep.
probate needed.
No probate needed. If you own property jointly with someone, either as husband and wife tenants by the entirety or as joint tenants with right of survivorship, if one person passes, then that property automatically transfers over to the other party on title because it's
No,
an
no
automatic
will even
right of
needed in that
survivorship.
scenario.
No will needed in that scenario. It's already been named just by the type of tenancy you're holding. So that would transfer over and then you can avoid probate that way. Other way is putting it into a trust because a trust never dies. A trust is set up to have trustees and beneficiaries. And as long as it's doing what it needs to do, it's going to essentially act as a living entity. And the trust is what owns the property. So if a person passes, your trustee may pass, but there should be mechanics within the trust that are going to then transfer the ownership and the trusteeship down.
So we're getting a question from Adam here. Is there any formal process to document the existence of a will, or is it always just a paper copy in a drawer somewhere?
So it's usually going to be a paper copy in a drawer somewhere, because if you go to, and you want the original. So if you go to the court and you've got a copy, they're going to automatically put you into formal probate, because they're going to want to validate, and they're going to want to make sure, this is a copy, this isn't the original. How can we be sure that this isn't a fake? And so they're going to go through, they're going to reach out to the heirs, and they're going to go through all of the processes to make sure that no one is contesting, that everyone is aware of what's happening, that it's transparency in the conveyance. And that's, the purpose of it. So it has to be that original copy that's in your drawer somewhere.
So next question is from Chris. I'll put this one up on the screen. If someone owns a house just solely, is a will enough for your children not to have to go through probate?
So as long as the license to sell is in that will, you can transfer it directly to the children. You'll still have to do informal, which just means, the court says, oh, yep, you've got a will. Great. Go ahead. Carry on. No hearings, nothing like that. You just file the will, and then you're allowed to move forward and pass it right down to the kids without going through the formalities of probate. And then I have a whole 30-minute presentation that I put together for this. So if there are more questions, put them together. If you want to send them to me in between, or we can talk about it the next time I'm here. I think next week I'm actually going to be doing the Tuesday. So
maybe it'll be a good carryover for Tuesday, actually.
Yeah, so we can, do some more on it, and I'll maybe slow it down and not talk so fast, but save up your questions and get them ready, and I'll jump right into them.
We'll finish up with one final question from Sue. If a will was made 30 years ago, is it still valid? Is there any kind of expiration on these, or?
There is no expiration. It's literally written into the will at most places that this will survive my incapacity. So unless you revoke your will, or you have a revision that, you have a new original. The other thing is something that's called a codicil, which is an adjustment, basically. It's like our purchase and sale amendment. The codicil is a will amendment. And that will allow it to make the changes, but unless you specifically revoke, a 30-year-old will is still going to be active and fully enforceable.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you giving us some time today to do our AI thing. I don't know that we could have handled 30 minutes on probate anyway. So
no one can handle 30 minutes on probate. I was just ready in case.
Okay. All right, let's finish up like we always do. Let's take a peek at what the training opportunities are for us today. What do we got? 4 different classes available: the New Agent Starter Series, the Journey to Elite, Building Community Locally and Digitally, and the Real Agents Society. So as always, go take a class, learn something, come back to this call, share it, share the show, and if you're watching on social, come join us live on the Zoom. All right, take care, you guys. Have an awesome Thursday. We'll do it again one more time tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks for the great information.